Welcome to Two Sisters of a Certain Age, Conversations with a Therapist and a Doctor. I am your co-host, Judy Grant, licensed marriage and family therapist.
And I'm your co-host, Dr. Sophia Grant, board-certified pediatrician and board-certified child abuse pediatrician.
So, Candy, it's been a minute since we've last recorded, and it's the
Yeah.
new year. There are all sorts of things happening. So, what's going on?
Well, let me see. We are trying to go to Sweden. So we've submitted to speak at the international conference in Sweden, and that would be a birthday trip for me. And what else? What else is going on?
But we had all of the holiday festivities. We
Right.
had we had birthdays, we had Christmas, we had New
Mm.
Year's. It's been a busy
It's
last month and a half or so.
It has been busy, but it's been like a good busy. You know,
Agreed.
you cook all day, but you sleep well, and you're really happy. And that got me thinking. Yesterday, I'm on call this weekend, and
Mm-hmm.
I woke up yesterday and I bathed Raina. I started cooking. I was organizing, got my tires rotated, and then I forgot I was on call and my phone rang. And wouldn't you know it, I had to go into the hospital. And I texted you with like a vomit emoji because
Right.
I was really on a roll. And as I was walking into the hospital, I said, you know what? I'm doing a job I love. And hopefully I'll get to help a family. And this is not a big deal. And I completely reframed it.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I'm going to choose joy in this circumstance. Yes, it's a monkey wrench in my plan, but it's not a bad thing. It's not like
Right.
something horrific happened. So I went
Yeah.
in, did the consultation, came back, got to eat the soup that I started earlier, and it was great. So it's a perfect springboard into today's topic,
Yes. Which
choosing
is,
joy.
what is joy? How do you
Uh-huh.
find it? How do you reach for it?
Hmm.
What does joy look like for you at home, at work, in the community? And when we were thinking about this episode and it being a new year, we thought, let's talk about joy. Let's talk about how we can incorporate more or find more as we move throughout our days, weeks, months, and throughout the year.
Hmm.
Because it's it's so important. It's so important.
Right.
I think sometimes this is why I will spiral on TikTok, because I'm looking at all of these joyous videos and clips of children, of animals, of people dancing, people laughing, and I just, it's kind of infectious, and you want that
Yeah.
for yourself.
Well, I'm on a different TikTok than you. Mine tends not to be full of joy, but it's so important, especially with the work that I do. And the work that you do. It's really easy to get bogged down and feel heavy and
Mm-hmm.
kind of bring that negativity home. But I think in order to have any type of longevity in the career, you have to have joy outside of your job. Um, I was in North Carolina in November with a bunch of
Mm-hmm.
other child abuse doctors. We're writing questions for the pediatric child abuse boards. And so I was, we were on like in a car, and I was like, what do you do outside of work? And one woman said she joined a choir and she
Mm-hmm.
sings in the choir. And then she asked me, well, what do you do? And I was trying to think of the stuff I like to do. And, I really like to sew. I like to create stuff, I like to make
Mm-hmm.
stuff. And of course, when I do that, I kind of become obsessive where like the house is falling apart. The only light in the house is the sewing machine light. And yeah, it can be overwhelming, but I like the end product of what I create. That gives me a
Right.
sense of satisfaction. And I think Yaya has definitely inherited that from me.
Mm-hmm.
And then, there's stuff I like to do, but it costs money. Like, I love to travel. That's ka-ching, ka-ching.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and
More
so,
expensive joy.
right, right. And I recognize that, a lot of people don't have those resources. So I'm like, well, what do I do that doesn't cost money?
Mm-hmm.
And for me, those things include, I have that very fertile orange tree in the backyard. I love to give those oranges away. I gave some to my neighbors. She called me and told me how good the fresh squeezed orange juice was. Then another friend texted me and said, I love your oranges. Um, and then I'll like squeeze those, the juice them, stick it in the fridge 6 months from now. I'm like, oh my gosh, fresh squeezed orange juice, fresh squeezed frozen orange juice.
Mm-hmm.
Those types of things make me really happy. Um, a lot
And
more than people would think.
right, but you see how simple that is? It does not
Yeah,
have to be a huge thing.
right,
Um, but I think a lot of people will go through their days like discounting those little things,
right.
right?
Hmm.
And if you just stop and pause, you can reap the benefit of that, and you can
Right.
choose happy.
Yes.
You
Hmm.
can choose to be joyous. Um, I had that fresh squeezed orange juice and it was delicious. So thank you for
Yes.
that.
Yeah, I have a sink full right now that I picked from the tree yesterday, and I squeeze so much that my electric juicer will just like quit. It
Hmm.
overheats. It says stop, and then I
Right.
go do something, and then I come back. But yeah, that's great.
So when we were thinking about this episode, I reached out to some family and some friends to
Hmm.
find out what brings them joy. And and I'm just going to read a couple of these because they are so sweet. Um, so I text a few of my girlfriends and ask them, hey, Candy and I are doing this episode on joy. Can you share what brings you joy with me and why? So my dear friend Nazi from elementary school, quality time with friends. And recently we got together and we had a dinner. So she goes on to say, our dinner together brought me great joy. Authentic and sincere connections feed my soul. Now, my girlfriend Suzanne, also, since we were, 9 years old, she writes, my friendships give me so much joy. Walks and dinners with friends give me a positive outlet from my family time. And that time outside of family allows me to come back being a better mom and a better wife. She goes on to say, and my other joy are my dogs. I love my dogs so much, especially when I'm having a bad day. They make everything better. And,
Hmm.
I'm reading these text messages and they're so sweet. Like it was almost self serving because just reading them, these notes of positivity and joy just filled me up. And, I have to agree, like the friendships that you have, the conversations you share with people that you love, that love you, really does bring joy. And then the animals, our fur babies,
Yep.
just pure sweetness, right? And
Yeah.
I just love. I mean, Jax is here right now, right next to me in his bed, but I just love the joy that animals bring to people's lives. This is another thing that I will spiral on TikTok, like baby elephants, baby giraffes, like all of those things just make me
Hmm.
smile and fill me up. Um, so I was interested in finding out like what the younger generation was saying about joy. And for this one, I reached out to my kids, your kids, our brother's children, and I got a few responses. Um, My son Grayson said, hanging out with friends and family and overcoming challenges. I would not expect him to say overcoming challenges, but it's something about that obstacle getting to the other side of that that becomes joyous for him.
Because there's a sense of satisfaction and then there's validation
Right,
because maybe the challenge was like, I can't do this. I don't know how to do this. This is so hard. Huh? And then when you do it, you're like, oh my gosh, I did that. So
right.
yeah, yeah, that's where that comes from.
Um, so my niece and your daughter Haley said, traveling and creating bring me joy. And Haley's definitely a traveler. She's been to more countries than I can count.
You
And
know
she
what's
shares, oh, go ahead.
what's interesting is I just mentioned travel and
Yep,
sewing, and she
yep,
mentioned travel and creating. Yeah,
yep.
she's
And
my kid.
I'm thinking about the rug that she recently made,
Right, right. Yeah, yeah.
you know? Uh, and one of the things that I admire about Haley and her travels is that she often goes with friends. So she's sharing that joy with a tight group of folks, and they're all getting to experience it together, create those joyous memories together. I think it's just a wonderful thing. Um, my nephew Isaiah says, "Me and my friends like to hang out and create dad lore." Which is just things we would like to tell our kids when we get older.
Oh, wow.
So
That's really sweet. Really sweet. He's planning to be a dad.
he's planning to be a dad and how that
Mm-hmm.
brings him joy.
Right.
So, joy can come in all forms, all
Yes.
forms. And I think about joy at work, because a lot of times people are like, oh, it's Monday, I got to go to work and this is so hard or, time consuming, whatever it is, stress, pressure, all of it. But like you yesterday when you were walking into the hospital and you stopped to do that positive reframe, like, why am I doing the job that I'm doing?
Mm-hmm.
You know, why is this important? And I think if you stop to ask yourself those questions, you start to see the joy in your work. You know, I'm talking about mental health and racial inequity. Those things aren't necessarily like woohoo,
Yeah, those are heavy.
but when
And
you talk about, oh, go ahead.
no, and I'm talking about child abuse,
Right, right. So these
also heavy. Mm.
very heavy. But like you said, no, I have an opportunity to help a family. So when I'm providing therapy, I have an opportunity to help my client move forward in whatever way they need. And they allow me to be a part of their journey. That's pretty cool.
Yes,
And
it
then
is.
even when you're talking about inequity, racial, social inequity, I try to remind myself that I have an opportunity to teach others, to impart knowledge onto others, to help them address their unconscious biases, and to help like promote a topic that has otherwise been seen as very deep, dark, heavy, and taboo.
It's all of those things. It's all
Yeah.
of those things. Um, for me at work, joy comes from when I see a patient and they're completely adorable. It just reminds me of why I became a pediatrician. And, I had a kid last week. She was so precious. And when like these precious kids come into the office, the heads of the other pediatricians pop up like little meerkats, like, cute kid, where? Cute kid, where? And, these kids are invariably very approachable. And I said, I want you to meet some people, took her hand, walked her down the hall. She said hi. And of course, everybody is, coming out and saying hi. And it makes those kids feel really important. But then it pours back into us to
Yeah.
remind us, like, why we do what we do, even in, difficult circumstances, we can still find happiness and joy. And I love it. Like I think I may have called you, and
You
I
did
saw
call
the
me.
I saw the cutest little girl,
Yes,
and
you did call me. And
yeah,
so that little preciousness, you experience it. You call me so I can experience it.
right, right. And I love days like that.
Mhm.
Those days are great. Other joyful times in my office, when somebody comes in and somebody has referred a kid because they think it's child abuse and it's not.
Mm,
Yeah, those are really great days too. So, and then even when sadly I diagnose some type of abuse or neglect, but we can um, put things in place to make those families successful.
mhm,
Um, Even that gives me joy. Most of the abuse that takes place or maltreatment, it's really neglect. It's people who lack resources or knowledge, and
mhm.
they want to be good parents.
Right.
And when we can help them out, that's great. That's great. Um, after Yaya left and I was alone, I found myself like baking something and taking to the office maybe once a week, and everybody really loved it. And I'm like, what the heck is wrong with me? And it made me happy, but I, I was missing that ongoing nurturing. So
Mhm.
my office, and that, during that, I don't feel the need to bake as much as I did, but that gave me joy too.
Yeah.
So, and thankfully, I work with a great group of people, all with different personalities, but I think we gel together well, and we we really support each other in difficult circumstances because it can get difficult.
Right, right. So that last thing that you mentioned about working with great people, um, creating those relationships and having that connection with people. I mean, we spend so much time at work. We spend so
Exactly.
much time. But when you have those relationships and they're positive and they're uplifting and they can help to hold you up when you might be challenged with whatever you're dealing with,
Hmm.
I mean, that is something that we shouldn't take for granted, like how important that is. Love being able to walk through my office and see people, hi, how are you? Check in, have little conversations. People just knocking on my door, coming in. And like, it's not just this, oh, you're a coworker, I'm a coworker, and we have to exist. Oh, we're coworkers, but we can also have a relationship, a meaningful
Hmm.
relationship,
Yeah.
which I think is so important. Just creating that connection with the people at work. Now, you might not like everybody at work. It might not, be as easy for you to do that, but, just find that one person, you
Yeah.
know, that one person that you can go to. Just knowing that people care about you is huge.
Or that you matter,
Yeah.
because it has, I worked at a place that was soul sucking and toxic.
Mm-hmm.
So, having emerged from that, I have a better appreciation of what I currently have.
Yeah, for
And
sure.
I think that that definitely helps. But something that I've had to deal with is, I have these three grown kids, and as a mother, your source of joy for me is really my kids. You know,
Mm-hmm.
Yaya told me a few years back I don't have a life outside of us, which was
Right.
so rude. Um, but they're the source of my joy. Having them home for Christmas and Thanksgiving and assuming they're going to be with me, that
Mm-hmm.
makes me happy. Like if we happen to all four of us be together, I feel giddy. And
Right.
I have had to come to terms with recognizing that we won't always all be together
Yeah.
because your children grow up and they have families of their own, and they'll have in-laws and other people in their lives who matter, and they won't be home with me. And so I have had to force myself into saying, I love this and I cherish it, but I know this won't go on forever. I know I
Hmm.
won't have all my kids every Christmas, every Thanksgiving. And so I am trying to seek other ways of kind of attaining that,
Right.
maintaining that joy outside of my child or my children, because I don't want to be an oppressive mother. How come you never spend Christmas with us? I mean, that, you
Hmm.
notice our
Hmm.
mother has never complained to us that we don't spend time with her. She's never complained to us, but when we're there, she loves it.
Right.
And so there's never this kind of burden to be with mommy, but like, it's like if you love something, let it go, they're going to come back. So
Right.
I'm trying to create an environment
Yeah.
that my kids are going to want to come back. And I think I have, because,
So true.
when I was buying this house and I was telling the kids I'm gonna downsize, Haley's like, where am I gonna sleep? When I have my family, what am I gonna do? Am I gonna stay in a hotel? And it was like, oh my gosh. And then I have a friend who told me that when she went to college, her parents downsized and it made her not want to go home because she was sleeping on the couch. She didn't feel like, settled.
Yeah.
And so I made that decision to buy this big house with just me and my dog for maybe the 2 times a year that it's packed.
Right.
And I mean,
Right.
I'm blessed that I have the finances to be able to do that.
Sure.
I'm really grateful for that. But I'm trying to seek other things other than the kids. Like I
Right.
want my kids to be like, I'm coming home Tuesday, and I say, "Oh, I won't be here." They're like, "Where are you going?" "Well, I'm going on a trip." Or I'm going to the Lavender Festival, or those things. So
Hmm.
that is something that at this stage of my life, I'm really trying to seek other things other than my kids. I mean, they'll always be my number one,
Right. Right.
but I need other things. I mean, you have a spouse, so Rick can give you joy, but for me, somebody like me, I need to choose
Yeah.
other things.
Right. Right. Yeah. And it I think there are times where, as a mother, you think like all of your attention should be placed on your children, right?
Yeah.
And and when they're little, we have to. But
Yep. For their safety.
as they grow and grow up and grow out, we need to kind of do the same thing. They're finding their joy out there. How can I
Yes.
find mine? And it's going
Yes.
to look different now. And I think that is, perfectly okay to do, and important for you. Whether, you take up a new hobby that you enjoy, whatever it might be. Um, I was in Home Goods, and let's not get started on that store because you go in
Right.
for one thing and you leave
Yeah.
like
Yeah, I know.
$300 later. So I was in Home Goods over the holidays, and I saw one of those little signs that you put in your house, and it said, "In this kitchen we dance." And I had to buy it because it so spoke to me, because often when I'm cooking, I've got music playing and I'm dancing.
Mhm.
And it's silly, but it makes me feel good. I don't even think about it. It's just something unconscious that I do. And it makes me feel good. It makes me feel happy. And I love, love, love. The girls don't do this with me, but Grayson will. He and I will be out at the supermarket, and they've like some piped in music on,
Uh-huh.
and he and I are dancing up and down the aisles. And it's
Mm-hmm.
just stupid, stupid fun. And
Yeah.
like when they say dance like nobody's watching, who cares? If it's in your
Right.
kitchen, it's your in the supermarket, at a party. And what's interesting about dance for me is, as much as I love to do it, I love watching other people.
Oh yeah.
dance.
Yeah. Yeah.
I, I, because you can see the fun that they're having, and it's
Mm-hmm.
a beautiful thing to witness. Um, so that is definitely one thing that I am always seeking out. And last year, Rick and I took salsa dancing classes, which we loved, and I'm wanting to find a different dance class to do, either with him or on my own, because it's I don't know, I just love it. I think
Right.
our parents encouraged that sort of behavior
Yeah. They
from
did.
from
Mommy and
an
daddy love to
early
dance.
age. Yeah.
Hmm.
And so we've always done it. So I do love that.
And let's not forget just how when you feel joy, you get those happy hormones,
Mhm.
like spending time with family. You get what, oxytocin, and
Mhm.
you can get some dopamine. And so that's good for your blood pressure, good for your mental health.
Yep.
Good. I mean, it's good all around. Um, there's some people, I know you've met people who, like, no matter what, everything is always just the biggest downer.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
those people, they tend to be difficult to be around just because of the negativity,
Yeah.
you know? Yeah. And I tend to avoid them because they just kind of suck the life out of me. I
Well,
don't
there
know if
was a
that's good.
well, there was a time in my life where someone, a friend called me, and we would speak, and I began to notice this pattern of like negativity coming from her. And like I couldn't share anything positive
Yes.
in my life because everything was so negative
Yes.
in hers. And I made a conscious decision to step back from that because it was so burdensome. Like it didn't feel good
Yeah.
to engage. It's like stealing my joy,
Hmm.
and it's maybe if I was older, more mature, I would be able to have addressed it better. But
Hmm.
at that point, I didn't have the wherewithal or the skills to be able to have that sort of conversation. But I think back on it now, like, whoa, that was hard, um, because it just didn't. It's like you don't look forward to those phone calls from that person.
Hmm. Now, for people who, just coming from a therapeutic standpoint,
Hmm.
for people who don't seem to have joy, you have a client come in and they're just, negative. And I'm not talking about they're depressed or anything, but
Hmm.
just,
Hmm.
what would you suggest?
And this is something that I've done with clients about finding their joy. So tell me what you enjoy doing. What is it that you like? There's going to be something, right? And so they might say, "Well, I like gardening." Okay, so how can you do more of that? How can you incorporate more of that into your life to help bring in more positivity for yourself, and for your mental well-being? So I also talk to them about, okay, they might share something negative. And you did this earlier, Candy, about your experience yesterday being on call. And the positive reframe, this is what we call it in therapy world. Let's do a positive reframe. So we can look at, it's kind of like the silver lining. We
Hmm.
can look at this situation and say, oh, that was awful, but what did I learn from that? What was the positive thing that happened as a result of that? So when they come in and they're talking to me about these negative experiences, I can say, whoa, 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 hold on a second. Let's rethink this. And how can you pull out the positives from that? And oftentimes people don't even realize that there is something positive that happened that was a part of that experience. And then when you draw it out of them, it's this like aha moment. Oh my gosh, I didn't think of it like that.
Right.
I would have never even considered that.
Um, I the only time I've ever heard positive reframing is from you, but but I think people do it without having a name for it.
Yeah.
I I remember during my divorce, and it was just like a living hell, a nightmare, a pain I don't want anybody to go through because it was so horrific. Um, I was like, in those quiet moments, I'm like, I know the Lord is not just toying with me to toy with me. I know there's going to be a lesson at the
Mhm.
end of
Mhm.
this.
Mhm.
And even in my grief, I started to consciously look for my lesson. Like, what's the lesson? What am I going to learn? What's it's like what was my test and what's my testimony?
Mhm.
Um and what I learned when I came out, and of course this is an evolving process because it's been years, but there's still pain. What I learned is I'm a badass, and
Mhm.
that, because the thing is, if somebody had said, okay, you're going to move, you're going to get a job, it's going to be toxic, your spouse is going to leave you, you're going to raise your kids, you're going to take on an additional or two additional jobs, your kids are going to be successful, I'd say no. you know um
Right.
my high school BFF would say, put me in a mental hospital because I can't cope. Um and I emerged, like I had to dig so deep.
Yeah.
And I mean that was my reframing. Now, I don't want anybody to have to go through that type of reframing because
Mhm.
it's so
Mhm.
horrible.
Right.
But I was doing it without having a name for it.
Right.
And I'm grateful because I feel like nobody can touch me. I feel like I can survive a lot now.
Yeah. Yeah. No, and I love that. And it reminds me, as you're talking about your divorce, it reminds me of what I went through. Um, and with my ex-husband, and how I felt like I emerged from that so much better, so much stronger, so much more self-aware, like,
Yes.
as to like what I need in my life. I There were a lot of lessons learned, and as horrible as both of our situations were, we emerged on that other side, going back to what Grayson said, and overcoming challenges
Hmm.
to know that you can get to the other side. So,
Yes.
you know, even in the pain, we can find some aspect of joy. We can find that positive reframe, and we can look back on it and be grateful for the lessons that were learned along the way.
Yes. Now, I want to point out how some of the responses that you read had to deal with friendships,
Mm-hmm.
and how friendships are so important for sustaining us.
Yeah.
I take pride in the fact that I have friends that I've had my entire life,
Mm-hmm.
and 40-year friendships. I remember when Daddy used to talk about, oh, he knew this person for 35 years. I'm like, Daddy is so old. I used to think, and now I can say, oh, yeah, I've known this person for 40 years and I wasn't in diapers when we met.
Right.
Um, but there's something about being with people who knew you before puberty, who knew you when you had braces, who knew you when you had your first crush, who knew you when you went off to college. There's something so comforting. It's like a blanket because
Mm-hmm.
there's like this shorthand. Like, you don't have, like, if you were to meet somebody brand new and you're like, oh yeah, I'm Jamaican, I did this, I'm remarried, I have 3 kids. But these people who knew you from when you were 9, 10, you're like, hey, how's it going? And you can laugh about stuff from way back when. And that
Right.
feels really good. It
Yeah.
feels really, and the thing is, this is why I love reunions, is especially high school and elementary, because you talk about stuff from way back when, and everybody is in on that joke. You don't
Right.
have to explain the joke. If you bring your spouse, you'd have to say, okay, this is what happened. This is, but
Hmm.
it's so comfortable. It's like a slipper, a blanket, apple pie,
Yeah.
all of those good things.
You know, I agree completely. When I was receiving these texts yesterday back from Suzanne and Nazi, as we're going back and forth, I immediately say, okay, so when's our next date, please?
Yes, yes, yes.
Because it's, they have my heart,
They do. They do.
and that joy that I have when I'm with them, it's really unlike anything else because, like you said, these are people who've been in my life for my entire life.
Hmm.
And when Suzanne said something about spending the time with her friends, and then she goes back and she's a better wife and she's a better mother as a
Yes,
result of having that time away for herself with her girls, you
yes.
know,
I think
that's huge.
the time away is important, but sometimes you're going through stuff and you may vent to a friend, and your friend will help you reframe it so that
Hmm.
when you return to your kids or your spouse, you're not resentful. So it's not just the time away, it's the lessons learned
Yeah.
that you can bring back. And that's the the importance of support.
Yeah.
You can't go through life all by yourself and feel like you're going to be successful. I mean, I don't think so. You may have financial success, you may feel like you've achieved something in terms of your stature, but like what is really feeding your soul? And I know it sounds kind of like cliche to say that, but all of these things that we've mentioned are feeding your soul, feeding
Yes.
like the deepest part of who you are. So,
Yeah.
is it friends? Is it family? Is it love? Is it learning? Is it creating? Is it sharing?
Hmm.
All of those. Is it admiring beauty? All of those things
Yeah.
like feed our soul. And
Yeah.
the thing is, those things are free.
Yes, they are.
You don't have to
Yes,
have
they
you you
are.
you don't have to have money to experience all of those. Those things are free. If you want to experience beauty, you go outside, you breathe some fresh air, you look at the trees, you look at a bird. You
Hmm.
know, if you want to like be poured into by a friend, you can call, you can catch up.
Yeah.
You know, pick an orange off the free tree, give it to somebody. I mean, those things are free. It's not
You know,
expensive.
I was thinking back to, as we were talking about this, to COVID, and everybody's
Hmm.
working from home. Um, I would go out to my backyard and I had a hummingbird feeder, and I had these two hummingbirds,
Oh, red. Hmm.
Red
Yeah.
and Andy from Shawshank.
Hmm.
One had a red breast, and I would just watch them and I would just be in awe of them. And those two little hummingbirds, really brought me joy.
Hmm.
And
Yes.
it's like, again, it does not have to be a big thing.
No, not at all.
And I think it's so important to find joy in the simple things. It's so important. When you were talking about feeding my soul, our mother is an amazing cook. Amazing. And that is one of those things that she has done throughout her life. And to feed us, yes, right? To
Hmm.
sustain us. But I also see the joy that she gets from it,
Hmm.
when she's able to have her family gathered and she's able to cook this big meal. She doesn't do it so much anymore because
Right.
she's much older. We've taken that upon ourselves, but I oftentimes leaving her home, having eaten dinner with her, what have you, and thought, Mommy just fed my soul.
Right. I want to tell a mummy joke.
Okay.
You call mummy. Mommy, what's going on? Oh, nothing. I just make some soup and then make some rice and peas and then me bake some chicken and then me fry some fish and me have a sweet potato pudding in the oven. Who's coming over? Nobody.
No.
And she just does it in case someone might come over. She does it so she can call somebody. She and the thing is, if you talk to her, she said, I don't even really know if I like to cook. I'm like, please, woman, you love that. You love that.
Yeah.
But I think that hospitality is part of what gives mommy joy.
Yeah.
And that's why, all the place settings and all of that stuff and the tea parties, she loves that stuff. That gives
Yeah,
her
she
joy.
does.
And
Yeah.
to be with her grandbabies.
And I recognize that as a mother, when I am feeding my family, that fills me up.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I cooked this meal, they're eating it, everybody's saying how much they're enjoying it. Um, Even if it's like a brand new crock pot recipe, whatever it is, the fact that I can feed them and sustain them and it's something that they like, again, feeds my soul,
Mm-hmm.
um, because I'm able to give that to them.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
So, take home
Yeah.
points. Take
Take
home
home
points.
points.
So, in the year of our Lord 2024, we will what? Like reframe things.
Positive reframe.
Mm-hmm.
We will find the joy in the simple things. And I dare all who are listening to go out today and find that joy. If it's a
Right.
butterfly, if it's, a baby in a stroller, whatever it might be, I dare you to find it because it's there. It's just waiting for you. And even when things are the most challenging, the most difficult, we want you to think back on this episode and think, okay, but what am I going to get out of this? What is the takeaway? What is the lesson learned? It might not feel particularly joyous, but there is something to be gained from this experience. And I'm
Yes.
going to acknowledge that and hold on to that, even though whatever I might be going through is difficult.
Yeah. And I would just encourage you to go and to pour into your friendships.
Mm,
The friendships, the friend that you haven't seen in a while and you're going to get together. Pour into those friendships because those are sustaining as well.
mm, I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, to Soka family, thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of this joyous conversation. I will say, my sister brings me joy. She brings me joy
Mhm.
each and every day, and I'm so grateful to have her and to be able to do this to Soka with her because the whole Tusoka thing is just a joyous thing. Yeah, Candy?
Yeah, it is. It really is.
So we want to encourage you to rate, like, follow, share Tusoka with family and friends. Candy, where can our people find us?
Well, they can email us to sokapodcast@gmail.com.
Mm-hmm.
Why don't you email us what gives you joy? And
Oh,
then
yes, we'd love to
you
hear that.
can go on our Instagram page, and it's the number two, Sisters of a Certain Age, and let us know what gives you joy. And if this podcast gives you joy, please
Yes.
share it with friends and family.
Yeah, we would love that. Again, thank you so much for being with us today, and we will see you again soon.
Bye.
No longer network.